All right, so I wanted to, go on a bit of a political tangent that is 100% correct, but that no one will ever admit, even though, like, you can kind of see the signs pretty much everywhere, right? And that's that the definition of woke is, people anyone who trusts single middle-aged white women, right? Right, it's why you can have trans women and all that on the anti-woke side, even though like a lot of the rhetoric is a bit transphobic, right? Because they know that no matter what, the group of people they'll trust the least is the old, bitter, and sour middle-aged white women, right? That are single. And the reason why we know not to trust them, right? But over every other group, right? Is we know that group, right? Like everyone knows that group because they're everywhere. And the thing about them, right, is what does all of them have, right? They have a few things in common. If like remember, it's singles, so like they have to have never been married. So every single one of them watches Law and Order SVU. Like you may be like, wait, what? Well, that is very specific. It's also very much correct, right? That they all watch Law and Order SVU. Specifically that show, and not the variation. You might be wondering why it's specifically that show and not and not any like variation. It's because it's the most predictable one, and it's also like in terms of not just like outcomes but also plots, right? It's also why for the longest time Lifetime was known as television for women, right? And every single time it has a very similar kind of plot, right? The plot of every single Law and Order SVU episode, as well as every single Lifetime movie, right? Is that hot white men and hot white and especially hot white women are evil. That's the plot of every single one of those episodes, right? You can have like you'll never see a sympathetic hot white guy or a sympathetic hot white woman. And the reason for that is simple, right? Who are middle aged, we're talking about 50s aged, right? Women who have never gotten laid going to be the most mad against, right? Who is this group going to hate more than anyone else? Could I get a show of hands for every single person in existence who knows the answer? Yes, all 100% of you in the audience whoever watches this video in the history of ever. They hate hot white men and hot white women, and the reason why is because these are the ones that rejected them when they were younger, right? And that's why they're bitter old white women, right? And that's ultimately the thing. That's like why like trad wife is like not really effective in like say other communities, right? But it's very effective in the white community. It's because you have a lot of that, right? Now you could get these in other communities, right? Because ultimately, what it really comes down to is wokeness is anyone who listens to female incels, right? So like it's the same thing. Like the problem with anti wokeness is when the people start to listen to male incels, right? Like as soon as you listen to an incel, you fucked up in life, right? And now anti wokeness isn't just incels. Obviously, I mean, most of us have gotten laid, right? But that's why, like, you never really see, right, an anti woke person who's a single mid-50s white person. And many people might say, but what about J.K. Rowling? I said anti-woke. I didn't say anti-trans. I said anti-woke, right? J.K. Rowling, like, look at that new Harry Potter series. You're telling me she's not woke? She's woker than woke, right? But, like, the thing is, she's she's a bit hateful and resentful to trans people, mainly because the person who rejected her, right? The little secret, right? Because a lot of people don't know this about her personal life, right? But the person who rejected J.K. Rowling in her life, yeah, yeah, they transitioned after, and that is ultimately why, right? So, like, that's ultimately the thing. Like, there's conservatives who just hate trans people because, it's, against, like, traditions and stuff. But, like, when it comes to old, bitter white women, they will always have an incel kind of reason for hating them, right? And that's ultimately the thing, right? There are plenty of dudes in the anti-woke movement who aren't incels, but as soon as they start being one, right? And I mean, like, someone who's never been in a relationship, right? At all. Right? At all. Right? So, like you get, like, Eric July, he's perfectly fine, right? You get Mark Kern, I don't really like him, but, like, he's not really, like, as, bad. Asmongold is great, you get the idea, right? But then you go to the problematic one. Who is the problematic one? Who is the one problematic anti-wokey? Anyone want to show a pair of hands? Who, like, the one anti-woke guy that everyone hates? Because, like, he just takes things too far. No matter what your politics are, you hate this one because he takes things too far. Unless you are also in his exact same camp. Anyone want a share of hands? Synthetic man, exactly. A white male incel. And so these are basically the groups of people who are, like, always bad. Now, not everyone who's anti-woke is an incel, right? Just like not everyone who's woke is an incel, right? The thing is, woke is you listen to incels, right? Anti-woke is you've been disenfranchised by the incels of the woke community, right? So, like, for example, right? White women about age 50 plus, right, love gossip and cancel culture, right? That's why the left is full of tabloids, right? You'll always see the left, every single thing, right? Is a Kotaku or an IGN or something, right? On their journalism, right? Like, the ones that will always stay left are like those, right? The ones that go further right, like, sometimes, are dependent on the thing, like CNN and stuff, the actual news, right? Those ones, right? Right, those ones are not woke, right? They might be left-leaning one day and right-leaning the next, or, they might stay left-leaning or right, depending on where the money is, right? But they'll never, like, hold a grudge, right? And that's ultimately the thing. What makes people do this kind of thing where, like, they'll make all the characters ugly and shit, or whatever, like that, right? In order to, we're like, because ultimately the thing is, right? Like, I said this before, I don't really have a problem with, like, the discourse happening. I just don't really like where it comes from, but I understand it. But, like, the reason why that body type 1, body type 2 thing keeps coming up, and people don't understand why it's coming there, right? Because why would a trans person want? That's another question people don't ever ask. Because, like, they always think they know, right? But why do you know, right? Because, like, it doesn't make sense. And that's because, drum roll, please. Those people don't want that, right? Like, why would I want biological sex to just be replaced with numbers, right? And it's 2 numbers. So, like if I'm trans, I'm like, well, there's more than 2 sexes, right? So why would I only want 2 options? See, this is where, like, you do a little thinking. What why would I want it to be that simple, right? I'm a trans person. I like complex things, right? Here we go. Drum roll, please. Right? They like it simple, right? That's like how they like their plots, their movies and stuff, right? So it's the old bitter white women and striking again. Now, so now we kind of understand, like, you know, yeah, let's build this. Oop. Oh, anyway. Yeah. So we kind of get that, right? Now. Right now. This needs to be said now. All right. We know, right? We now know, the start and cause of that. So, what am I getting here, right? You know, because I mean, definitely, I'm obviously getting at something. So, the reason why that system exists, right, is because of what it is, right? It's a virtue signal, right? And the reason why it's a virtue signal, it's simple. It doesn't really mean anything, but it says that you did something good for people, right? You didn't actually do anything good, but it allows you to say you did. And again, the group of people who love to do nothing, but then act like they did a lot for people. Middle-aged white women, right? Yeah. So like that's ultimately, that's ultimately the thing, right? It's ultimately the group behind it all. And you can hate me all you want for saying the objective truth, but it's objectively true. Don't deny it. Right? And again, the reason why this happens, right, where everyone has these particular issues or quarrels with it, right, with admitting this, is because what it really means is that, like, certain things are all preventable, right? Certain, like, bad things are all preventable, and we can't engage in, like, groupthink on topics, but we have to pattern seek out the individual actions and behaviors of someone to tell if they're a bad person, right? But it also means that doing that pattern seeking, you can fix them, right? So the way you conquer wokeness is the same way you conquer anti-wokeness, right? You appeal to it with sex, right? So, Marvel Rivals is gay as fuck, right? But it wins in one way, right? That a game like Concord never could fathom, right? The characters are hot. And as soon as that happened, right? As soon as that happened, all they did was make the same gay and trans characters hot in that game. And everyone loved it. There's not all the anti-woke people have to say it's anti-woke now. Right? Right? I mean, they have to claim it because it is, right? But it is anti-woke. But that's the thing, right? Anti-woke is disenfranchised leftist, right? It's not conservative. It's disenfranchised leftism. And so a disenfranchised leftist isn't homophobic or transphobic necessarily. Some might take it to that bitter extreme, but they're not all like that, right? But what they all share in common, right, is their problems started because of a woman, right? And ultimately, here is the real message of, like, this thing. The whole reason there's this culture war, the entire reason is because there's nothing more toxic than a toxic man who is bitter and heartless because his heart was broken after he gave everything up for a toxic woman. Right? Like that movie, right? With the guy who played Stu Macher, right? And Shaggy, right? Yeah. And you might think that's a stupid comedy movie, and it is 100% factual. Every single problem in your life can be looked upon by this, and you will see that pattern occur in it a lot, right? Because that's really the thing. When it comes to problems with power, they ultimately have the dumbest fucking reasons that they exist. Because, like, that's how people, like, work, right? Like, ultimately, you got to remember, as complex as the world is, it's always going to be run by people. People are always going to be motivated the most by the most retarded shit ever, right? So, like, once you figure that out, you can be like, wait, that makes no sense, but it is kind of true at the same time, right? And that's because it is. Like it factually is true, right? If we're going, like, just on facts. But it makes no fucking sense. Right? Like if you're trying to make sense with what I said, you will fail. I am correct, but it's not something that should ever make sense. And the reason it should never make sense is because that's the most insanely idiotic thing you've ever heard. Everyone who listened to me till this point is now dumber having listened to it. Not because I'm incorrect. I am correct. It's that insane that even being correct, it makes you dumber. Okay? Like that's just how ridiculous people in the real world can be. That some, like, like there's an entire blood feud, like, section on the internet that has basically, been, like, non-stop invading everyone's personal lives and stuff. And it all boils down to the most retarded fucking bullshit ever. And people will, like, deny this all day long. But anyone who even, like, remotely thinks about it knows it's true. You know? Right? And it's very like plain why, right? It's because as smart as humans have evolved to be, we're still human, right? And humans, no matter how intelligent, always have some retarded shit about them. And that's ultimately my statement here, right? The culture war is still dumb. I still think that. But I do think that, like, my initial, like, response to just calling it worthless, it was wrong, right? Because it's not worthless. It's just, you got to know, like, what the point of the debate really is, right? You're not going to learn anything, right? So it's pointless in, that regard, right? You're not, like, doing it, to discover anything important. It's just a fun little conversation, with dumb little twists and turns and bends everywhere. But you eventually figure out that, the world is effectively, fighting over the dumbest shit ever. And, everyone is, at each other's throats for stupid reasons. And then you kind of just laugh at it and, play along with it. Right? But the thing is, people will hate you for that, right? So people hate me on both sides of the culture war because I don't take either side seriously. So you might know, I'm the guy in the forums who, is just dunking on the whole conversation happening. But then I'll agree with the anti-woke on, when I'm being sincere on the position that, the game really would benefit if it was, male-female, right? But I am also dunking on the conversation because I know ultimately what it really boils down to. And I'm only really dunking on it because it's funny to me, right? The fact is kind of funny. You got to admit that. If you really want to if you really want to be honest with yourself, that was the dumbest and most hilarious thing you've ever heard. It's true, but that doesn't make it intelligent at all. It just means that people are that stupid, that the world runs on stupid, right? It is true, but it shouldn't be true. And that's ultimately it, right? That's ultimately the point. But yeah. Oh, right. Yeah. Anyway, thanks everyone. Oh yeah, and by the way, that's actually, just so you know, the actual reason why Synthetic Man, in particular, is very racist, right? If you look at who rejected him, right? There's a hot chick, and then there was a black chick, right? And that's ultimately the thing, right? You can honestly learn a lot about people's politics without ever speaking to them by looking at their sex life and who was not in it. Right? If you look at who's in it, you don't know. But if you look at who's not in it, you can learn right away a lot about a person. And again, this is entirely because human beings are stupid and basic. And so our reasons for doing things will always be the dumbest shit you've ever heard. Anyway, yeah, hope this entertained you, but don't let the fact that it was funny fool you into thinking it's not true. Every single word I said is 100% factual. It's just that the facts are retarded. Not like that. Those are the facts, but it is the most insanely idiotic thing you've ever heard. It's true, but it should not be. And that's ultimately why I don't think anyone will really admit that that's what the culture war really is, because then they'd have to admit that everyone who's participating in it is just dunking on each other for dumb shit, right? That the other side did. But they're both kind of guilty of it. right? But that's actually like basically the explanation for why like there's so much convergence between the woke and the anti-woke, right? There's so much convergence as well between Grums and its haters, right? Grums is a piece of shit, but so is every single person, including me. Really, I'm just not afraid to admit I'm a piece of shit. To be fair, you know, like legitimately, if you've seen like me talk about my childhood and life, right? You might think, oh, it's a sob story. No, like that's just me explaining my childhood and life. Just because I had a rough childhood doesn't mean I'm not a fucking shitty person, right? Like I'm a shitty, hateful, extremely resentful piece of shit. Like pile of shit. Like I said, I might be correct, but I'm still also full of shit. Right? Because being correct doesn't free you from being full of crap. Right? The facts don't care about your feelings, basically, right? So yeah, that's just what I'm saying, right? Like ultimately, the culture war is dumb, not because the people in it are dumb, but because the motivations are factually stupid. But the reason why is because people ultimately are still people, and you can pattern seek to basically come up with the same conclusion very easily. But at the end of the day, the real lesson is, of this is effectively to know that the people who actually fighting the culture war are all bad people, right? Me, Stuttering Craig, Grums, Razor Fist, Melanie Mack, or like on the left, David Rivera, Alyssa Mercante, all that are all full of shit. Every single one of us, right? Because ultimately, the only reason any of us are participating in this at all, right? All of us, every single one of us has this in common, no matter how much one group will deny it after this video. Every single one of us hates this fact, but it is true. We're just bitter, jealous, and resentful people because someone fucked us over really hard back in the day, and we made that one little bump in our lives everyone else's problems, right? Stuttering Craig, for example, is the bullshit that happened with them with game trailers and Screw Attack, and eventually Rooster Teeth, right? That's why, you saw him very giddy when Rooster Teeth got, fell apart, right? With Razor Fist, it's mostly his ex, right? But also, a few people that, he knew, from before he started doing, content at all, from his DeviantArt days. A lot of people don't know that, but he had DeviantArt days. Dev is basically everyone because, he's just full of shit to everyone he meets. Then you have Synthetic Man, it's black women and, black women and a gay guy, right? Destiny, right? Destiny's, more on the left, right? Destiny, it's, with Destiny, it's basically he got because you might be thinking like Destiny fucks everyone, right? He fucks Nazis, right? He fucks black people. He fucks right. But there's one group of people you'll never see Destiny fuck, right? You'll never see it, right? You'll never see this one. Destiny will never fuck. You'll just never see this happen. He'll never fuck. Yeah, actually, I don't fucking know. I don't understand Destiny. Destiny is a mixed bag, right? And then you have, of course, the people that, I'm just joshing you. It's Trump support. It's a Trump supporter, right? That's why like he fucks like the Nazi group that didn't vote for Trump. Right? Like if you notice, he'll fuck every single Nazi that didn't vote for Trump. Right? So he's like a MAGA resentment bullshit with him. And then you also, have like, what was it? Monica Real, right? Yeah. And then, I think we understand that one, right? It was a Christian. So every time she finds out someone is Christian, she wants to fuck him over. Right? With, Zoe Quinn, right? Well, who did she bully the most? Her little brother. I'm not saying it was incest, right? That's not what I'm talking about. But like, if you look at like, who her brother was, right? And then you look at what started Gamergate, right? Which was she was grifting off of the death of Robin Williams. You can kind of, put two to two together, right? She really hates cis white men. And you get the idea, right? Every single person in the culture war, left or right, hates at least one particular group, and they will like be vile and all that and aggressive with that thing in anything, right? And that's what it is, right? And they will ruin, right, anything, no matter what. They don't care how much money it costs, because they're not in there for finances. They're in there to ruin this one particular asshole's day with what they do, and half the time it never works, right? But that's ultimately what it is. That's ultimately, like I said, why the Grums Hate Brigade is going to always be pathetic. Because, you gotta remember, who would hate Mark Kern the most in these situations, right? So for me, I hate him because I was an ex-Ember fan, because he actually bullied one of my friends into, like, suicide. So I actually have probably the like least dumb reason to hate Mark Kern, but then you have like Nick Halandra and all that crowd, right? And they hate him because I believe it had something to do with Firefall, right? And they will hold this beef till the ends of the earth, right? Same with Mark Kern. See, he has some beef with Blizzard that he will hold on to till the ends of the earth, and he will never let it go, right? And it's always like this one stupid beef, right? And the people who head it, it's always like relationship stuff. It's not always relationship stuff with, like I said, with Craig, it's not a relationship. It's like, employees and stuff, right? But it's always like one thing where like this was the thing that sparked resentment in you, and you will never let it go. It doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't matter why. They're doing that one thing you don't like, and you will ruin everything just to get rid of that. And you usually never get rid of that, but you end up ruining everything else in your life in the process, right? It's like ultimately, right, like why Mark Kern basically took the dumb Ubisoft beef, seriously when he should just let it go. Right, it's not as if it really mattered, right? I mean, the game didn't really do that well, right? It was just a little dunk on him, right? But that's like why he has that ego with like Ubisoft and all that, right? You try to give him with that ego on like a normal person. Like if I try to do that, it wouldn't really matter, right? Because I wouldn't be able to ratio him. But it's only because he got ratioed by Ubisoft that it really hit him that hard that he couldn't let it go. But that's why he never beat them, right? And it's like no one really liked Ubisoft, right? Like I don't think anyone thought Ubisoft were the good guys in that scenario. At least I didn't, right? I just thought it was funny. Right? I just thought it was funny, right? I like there might be some people, right? But I'm not an Ubisoft fan. Like you will never get me to like an Ubisoft game ever since Black Flag, because I also hold a resentment beyond reason for them, right? In particular, because of what they did with Black Flag, ever since they took Black Flag off of the Steam stores, I have never once had a positive thought about Ubisoft, right? And I never will, right? Ubisoft died to me in 2015. They have never been good since then, and I will never give them goodwill. There are people who are fans of them since then. There are people who are mega fans since then. I will never be one of them. When they rebrand, unless they rebrand that company name, because they're owned by Tencent now, so it's really just the brand now. But now that they've rebranded a bit, unless they remove the Ubisoft part of their branding, I will never buy an Ubisoft product ever again from 2015 onward, because they did some dumb shit after Black Flag, and I will never, ever, ever, ever respect them. And that's ultimately the thing. They don't have to worry about pleasing me. It won't happen. Right? And it's a dumb, petty reason. It has nothing to do with like the stealing of your library thing. I'm joking around. That wasn't until 2024. That is also pretty bad, but that didn't happen in 2015. It was something that was a very private company matter. You want to know what it really was? I had a friend who worked at Ubisoft, and she was kind of like a bitch to me. Right? There was a friend in like this, or ex-friend, I should say, in this gaming furry server with like a bunch of like anti-woke furries, right? And there was this one trans furry who was a developer at Ubisoft, right? And she basically, like I knew something, right, that she didn't, and she would not accept that, to the point where I kept pointing out, like, all the inconsistencies, and even used video evidence and like showed in my own code why she was objectively incorrect about the thing she was asserting. And she kept denying and denying and denying. And then the game she was working on came out, and it ran like fucking garbage for the exact problems I pointed out. Right? And then ever since then, I have not had anything besides resentment for Ubisoft. That is why. That is objectively why, and it is and it is their brand. Like it's also her, but like she's probably gonna get fired soon because they're doing the whole restructuring thing. But even then, the fact of the matter is, she touched it. She left a stain on Ubisoft brand for me so foul that if the word Ubisoft is uttered, I'll be like, where's Stripe Rose? Where's Omni-Man? Right? Like, I'll be like, and people who are listening to this are like, if you were never in that Discord, you're like, who the fuck is she? Like, who hurt you? And it's like, she didn't even do anything really that bad. Like, you're listening to this, right? You're listening to this, and you're like, what the fuck is... You hate someone for that? Yes. Yeah. But it's the dumbest shit you ever heard, right? And I was even right in it, and I still fucking loathe her for that. Because ultimately what it was a thing, because I'm very autistic, right? So it was a thing I was hyper focused on on learning, right? Because it's like I was like, this was like back when I was like a major like graphics like programmer. So like I was like, when she met me, right, I was like fresh off of coding my own game engine in pure OpenGL and GLSL, right? So I knew like all this shader code and shit she never knew. And we'll never have to learn because she's all high level stuff and like their engine, right? So I ended up having to learn all this shit she has no fucking idea about, like compiling shaders and stuff, and she like just could not fathom, right, the thing. And it's because of this really dumb thing, which probably had nothing to do with like what her position at the company was. Right, because not every game developer is going to have to know about like shader optimizations that I know, right? But I knew about them, and she denied it, and then the game ran like ass because of that, right? Actually, yeah. It was actually no, it was 2023, right? And like I said, yeah, the reason why is because of that, right? So yeah, I would never support an Ubisoft game, even if it was good, all because of this, right? Like all because of that, right? But like I really didn't really like. I had plenty of bad reactions to her since 2015 when I met her, and that's why I'm like saying the year 2015. That in the last game I really liked by them was Black Flag because I don't really like play Rainbow Six, right? And I wasn't really able to like afford the other Assassin's Creed games when they came out. So yeah, you know what? Really, that's why I don't like Assassin's Creed, just because I couldn't afford it, right? But then like after that, I'm like, because I could have afforded Shadows, and it doesn't really look that bad. I'm gonna be honest. It's not because it looked bad, like didn't look bad. It's just because of that. I can't let her get a W. So anytime an Ubisoft game comes out, I cannot let this be like make money. I cannot. It's gotta lose money. I gotta lose money because Stripe Rose was a dumbass bitch to me one time in like a few years ago, and it was like really over the dumbest shit ever. But that's really ultimately like what it is. I have a dumb multi-year like blood feud problem with a random trans friend, well, ex-friend now, but like random trans person in an anti-woke gaming server where it only really is a resentment because of like how obvious it was that I was correct, and like she was denying it legitimately because she didn't like that like this random dumb person, because I am really dumb, right? When I don't hyperfixate on learning something, I am the dumbest fucking person on the topic, right? Like, because like what I knew was like also like kind of worthless in most jobs, right? You do not need to learn like this really extremely crucial shader code bit because most game engines do it for you, right? Like even like with Unreal Engine 4, like when the like engine came out, right? Even when like they was having these issues and the topic of the conversation came up, right? That got me to talk about like hey, look, you should probably like pay attention, like this thing is happening, and then she didn't understand it, and then like all that. It is the dumbest stuff ever. But like that's my beef with Ubisoft. It's because of that. It's not because of all the sex offender shit that happened from the higher ups. She was never a higher up. She was like an intern basically. So don't ever blame her on that shit. I like that's the thing. Only I can hate her this much, right? That's another thing. This is my blood feud. If you get in between it, I'll be like, what's his name, Battle Beast, and this is like my battle with Thrag, right? I'm like, this is my worthy opponent, bitch. Get the fuck off, and I will also take no advantages. If you like get an injury on her, I will give myself the same injury. We are battling, right? We are doing an ultimate battle, right? And I don't care if I lose in the end, but like you will not interrupt this. This is my fight, no one else's. Okay, like that's another thing. It's like our battle will be legendary, but only I get to fight her. Okay, you can't fight her. You touch her, I'm killing you, and then I'm going after her. Anyone who's read like Invincible towards the, but hasn't read towards the end, you have now like you would now hate me, and you will have that same fucking thing I'm talking about with her form in your life too. And like I said, it's the dumbest shit ever, right? I just spoiled like a silly thing, right? Right? But you will fucking hate my guts now for the till the end of your life. And you will never ever fucking give me any like quarter of respect again. Someone if enough people watch this video, someone will do that with what I just said. Mark my words. If enough people watch this video, someone right now, I just ruined any positive interaction I'd ever had with them. 20 years down the line, we will like meet in like a cafe, and then like they'll just take their shirt off, right? And like like they'll be doing themselves a disservice. I'll be like old and barely able to move, and then they'll just start whooping my ass. But like I'll be too old to even remember what the fuck I did, right? And they'll just be like screwing every bit of like they'll be in a decent successful position, but they'll like screw every bit of like success that they got over this, right? And mark my words, this will happen, right? I am prophesizing, right? Right? I am prophesizing, and it's just like it's not like people have multiple of these beefs sometimes, right? Like I do, like I have one with Stripe Rose because of that, right? And I have one with Fresh Renders. Although with Fresh Renders, it's not really a dumb thing. Like the dude literally called me a Nazi sympathizer and told me to kill myself, and that I should have stayed in my group home. I was getting raped, like because I had been nice to a person who was always nice to me, because that person was like called a Nazi. It's like, but he's nice to me, so who cares, right? Right? And so, like, I'm like, hey, fuck that piece of shit. And it doesn't matter, like, ever, right? Like, you will not ever, like, get, like, a reasonable, like, response as to why I feel that way, right? That's just how it is. And again, it is the dumbest bullshit you've ever seen, but it's how I run in my brain right now. All right? So yeah, ultimately, it's just a silly thing. But I wanted to say it because it's like a little thought in my head, and all that. So anyway, see ya.